Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome along to the people in the hall, and also a big welcome along to everybody looking in on the internet tonight. So, once again, I'd like to just start by reminding everybody that the care line is open tonight. We have listeners up in the care house, ready to take your call. So, if you would fancy it all to call in and have a listening ear to listen to your story, you're very welcome to call in. The listeners, the care listeners are there and waiting for your call. So, I would like tonight to just continue on a little with the talks that I've been giving, mainly around the 7 factors of enlightenment, but also just to stay a little bit with the investigation side of that. This is the second element of these 7 factors. So it starts off just with mindfulness. For those that are new here tonight, we can probably start to look at that a little bit more, and we will do that in the meditation as we come, because as ever, when I do talks like this, I do like to sort of bring the aspects of the talk into the actual meditation itself when we actually start to do that, just in a few moments' time, indeed. But the first aspect is mindfulness. The first factor of these 7 factors is mindfulness. Very important part of the process of meditation, just being able to sort of keep that focus with any kind of object that's in your mind over a period of time, so that we're able to not be so scattered and sort of stay with just what we're doing, presumably in the present moment, because as we've heard all the way through, the present moment is very, very important with this kind of meditation that we do, because the present moment is really where reality is. We hear this often enough in this centre, in this hall, that the past really is gone, it's finished. So even though we can certainly learn from the past, but the reality of what was lived in the past is gone, it's dead, it's finished. And indeed the future is yet to come. We really have no real idea. We might be able to have a fair idea of what might happen in the future, but in a general sense we don't really know what's going to happen even just really in the next few minutes. So the future is always uncertain. And as I say, the past is finished and gone. So once we start to appreciate that and realise that, we start to see that the present moment is very, very important. And this present moment is really where this first factor of enlightenment sort of sits, because we become mindful of the present moment and just what we're doing, what we're able to understand and glean from the conditions that come into our mind over this, as we're kind of living our life through this present moment. So the second aspect is this one that I've just talked about, investigation. The second factor of these factors of enlightenment is investigation. And that's what we're going to be doing tonight, or looking at. And I wanted to look tonight at a situation that I think is very important really for meditation, and that's looking at shame, just the way that shame affects our lives. And I think too, in many ways, often stops us from being quite able just to relax and sort of relax into the present moment, just allowing that present moment to just be with us in the relaxation. Very often there's these conditions of shame will sometimes come up, as I'll sort of talk about and explain a little later on. But just with the Just following through the other factors of enlightenment, there's after investigation we have the third factor, which is energy, just the right energy. So having that, and as I've mentioned many times, the Buddha always talks about energy. It's there in all of the lists that he made, really, all the way through from, most importantly in the Eightfold Path of practice, just having the right energy. And then the fourth factor is joy and rapture and bliss, really. Just as you do start to relax into this present moment, just the joy that can be found in the present moment is really quite wonderful. And it is certainly a worthy factor of enlightenment. So then the fifth factor is really tranquility, the way that we can actually tranquilise the mind. And we do this in a very natural way. This tranquility is not, and the tranquilisation is not done with any tablets or drugs or anything like that. We just do this naturally. It's a natural process of meditation where the mind just becomes very tranquil and calm. And then the sixth factor is concentration. Oftentimes we talk about that as samadhi. It's a way of just allowing the mind to gather more pixels, if you like, to become more resolved as we're looking deeper into the present moment. And then the seventh factor is just equanimity. So those are the seven factors, but as I say, tonight we're really going to be looking mainly at the just at this process of investigation, and the investigation around shame in particular. And I really wanted to start that process to talk about that because it's particularly relevant to the care group, the care listening line that we've got set up that sort of runs in tandem with these Wednesday night sessions. Because the training that we do here for that is based on the Samaritan training. The Samaritans are an organisation that do the same sort of thing as this, where they offer a listening ear to people to call up, and they're mainly involved in suicide prevention. Is just what, when I think of the Samaritans, that's what comes to my mind. But they're able to listen there in a special way, in a certain way. They're not really there to offer advice, or, in fact, people that I think ring the Samaritan line, are really people that have already sort of probably been through many of the systems that are available, perhaps through all the doctors and even the psychiatrists and psychologists. And they just end up really at the last resort, which is the Samaritans. So they, if they're feeling badly about things, they call and they just get a listening ear. And there isn't any advice given. It's just really a situation of just pure listening. Now, all of this came about. I just wanted to tell you a little bit of the story of the Samaritans, because I actually did meet, when I was involved in the Samaritans many years ago, I actually did meet the founder of this organisation. His name was Chad Vara. Wonderful man, actually. He was a man, I actually think of him as a genius in a way. But it's the story of the beginning of the Samaritans is really very relevant to this topic tonight of shame, because what was happening, Chad was an Anglican minister. He operated out of a church in London. It's a very beautiful church too, a Christopher Wren designed church, and I think there's a Thomas More altar that's there in the front of this beautiful old Christopher Wren church that's right there in the heart of London. And anyway, he was conducting this funeral for this girl who had died, a young girl. He knew it was a young girl, but he didn't know much about it. And he was walking in the front of the cortege with the funeral director, and he just asked the funeral director, what happened? Why is this girl dead, this young girl? And the funeral director told him that she'd actually committed suicide. And he was a bit shocked. He said, for heaven's sake, why would a young girl commit suicide? And as it turned out, this young girl had just started to have her first period. And the fact of having that period somehow or other brought up for her a lot of shame. I mean, it's really even hard to believe until you really get into these sorts of things. And you realise that it's very common, this kind of thing, when people don't sort of talk about things much or they don't understand things. But that's what happened to this girl, and she was feeling that shame that she actually committed suicide. Now, Chad, when he heard that, he decided that this shouldn't happen ever again, and he decided that he would offer himself to anybody that wanted to come and talk. So he was really like in a way the first Samaritan. And when he started advertising this, of course, he had quite a lot of people come, quite a lot of people attending his church, and he started to operate the service down in the crypt of the church. And as he was doing that and the people became more and more, he decided to ask some of the parishioners, some of the men and the women that attended his church, if they would come and help him, just to help him look after the people, because he was getting very busy. He was becoming very busy with this whole process. And as time went on, he realised, though, as these people that were waiting for him were out talking to all these men and women that were making sandwiches and making a cup of tea for people and all of that sort of thing, he realised that when these people were coming in, that the pressure that they felt was really somewhat alleviated, and that they were actually, that the conversations outside had done them well. That he didn't really need to do as much work, because these ordinary men and women had come along to help him, and they were kind of doing the job for him in a way. And I think this is Chad's genius, really, in the way that he saw this. And really from there on, he gave a little bit of help to these people from his church, just to help them sort of be able to be with people when they were coming in, because it was by this time it was starting to become quite a regular service for people, and really from that point on, that was really the start of the Samaritan organisation. And that organisation now is large all the way around the world. It's in many countries of the world, and it's a very beautiful service. And certainly there is a Samaritan office here in Perth that I, in fact, used to be involved with too. And I was lucky enough to meet Chad when he came over here. I met him when he was quite old. He was certainly in his 80s when he came here, and very, very lovely, gentle man that had really a wonderful life and sort of started this wonderful organisation. But I think that story is very relevant, though, for us when we look at our meditation sometimes, and just what it is that stops us from just relaxing deeply into the present moment, to be able to sort of notice and see what the Buddha was pointing towards. When we talk about the way we practice in meditation to absorb into the moment, to absorb into the stillness, that we talk about the stillness of the present moment. And certainly that's what we'll look at in a moment in the meditation that we do. But absorbing into this stillness, and there's a quality of absorption when you sort of go into that stillness where it becomes very powerful, where in fact the whole world and our body and everything that's external to us just drops away, and our mind just stands forth with just this stillness that's there, that's resounding, that's iterating, beginning and ending. So the stillness is really very important to know about, and very important to try and work with and to make real in our lives, because it's very powerful. The stillness itself is a healing thing in itself. if we can manage to be able to put that stillness around any of the traumas or the troubles that we have in our life, the stillness has this propensity to break up tensions and to relax. You know, it's really the heart and soul of what meditation is, just to be able to sit, make your body relaxed and let it relax to a point where the mind relaxes as well. And when the mind relaxes, the stillness starts to appear and starts to stand forth. And it's something that we can really cultivate. We can cultivate and we can even amplify it and make sure that it's there in all parts of our life. And one of the most wonderful things with it is because it is a really good indication of what it is to be present, the present moment. We know that actually we're very close to what the Buddha was pointing to when he was describing and teaching this enlightenment process that the Buddha so wonderfully teaches in the Eightfold Path of Practice that he set out. And being able to absorb into the stillness becomes very important. But then, of course, as we all know, when we sit down and we start to try and do this sort of thing, there's usually always bits and pieces that come up in our minds that kind of stop us from doing that. And this is what we work with in the meditation. We work with the troubles and the obsessive thinking that we kind of go through and all of that to try and settle our minds so that we can absorb into the stillness and make the stillness more and more real and come closer to just the third factor there of the enlightenment process of joy and rapture, and then moving into the tranquility and the concentration, and then the equanimity that can come, so that we are really then starting to understand just what this world is, who we are, just who we are. When we start to look at this, this question of just who am I, that becomes a very relevant thing that we can see. We can start to see things about this universe, just to see where this universe is created. And then just as I've been sort of talking about in weeks past too, just knowing that this whole process, this universe that we're looking out on, that we each have in our minds, is a mind-made thing. This universe is not something that's just external to us, it's actually something that we're creating in our mind. And to get to all this though, I'm sort of, talking up the wonderful elements of all of that. But there is, as we're getting to that though, just these problems that come up that stop us from developing this in a really easy kind of way. So we come now to the point of what I just wanted to talk about tonight, and that is really just the way that shame and how we can work with that. Because shame is a thing that's, I've just got it written here, that shame, and actually I take a lot of this too. I must give credit to a lady called Brene Brown. I'm sure that many of you will have seen her talks on the web. She does some fantastic work around this shame and vulnerability. She usually talks about, but she is very clear in the way that she sort of talks about shame, because she says that shame is it's correlated very, very strongly with addiction, depression, violence, aggression, bullying, suicidal behaviour, eating disorders. So all of these kind of nasty things, shame can be right there and causing us trouble. And the big thing with shame is that it's very different than guilt because shame really is something where we take that into ourselves, and we say that, it's with guilt. Let me maybe start that way, maybe easier to explain this. But when we're guilty, we're feeling guilty about something, it is always usually, I've done that thing and I'm sorry, I've done this thing wrong and I'm sorry that I've done it. So you're really always talking about an object outside of yourself. Usually when we're talking about guilt is something that's associated in that way. But shame is really the opposite to that. Shame is that I am wrong. I don't deserve this. I am the problem here in my life. I don't deserve what I've got. It sort of works more, just more in that way. It's a way that we kind of put ourselves down in a way that we can't really do anything about it. Whereas when we can sort of understand this and sort of just sit and be with the shame, it is really something that can be just flipped on its head, so that we can actually turn it really more into a guilt, guilt is probably more of an adaptive way of sort of dealing with these issues that come into our minds and into our bodies, because guilt can be worked with. You can actually work, when you're kind of working with something that's external to yourself like that, you can actually work with it, whereas shame is not really like that. And I think that it afflicts so many people, shame, in that way, and it really is something that we can, especially in meditation, just sort of sitting and just, even though it's painful to be with shame. I mean, I'm talking here, I can tell you from great experience over the years, I've been very ashamed, and when I think about things like, well, even just trying to be a good Buddhist, or and I look out into the world, and you kind of look at the way that we treat this world, with the way that we treat animals, the way that we kind of destroy the habitat of animals, with very little regard, really. We, by and large, human beings are very predatory creatures. We don't often give a lot of thought to the biodiversity that is around us. We don't kind of see that all these things are really part of us, and that the biodiversity is very, very important to us in our lives, to be able to be there for us. And when I kind of see this, it does make me quite ashamed actually to be in the world. This is how I kind of first started to approach this. Just wanting things to be different from that, but just seeing the shame in my own mind, in the way that I kind of treat things. Because I realise with all of this that I'm not past or beyond any of this. It's we are all culpable in this sort of situation. We've all have some responsibility to play in the way that we live our lives, and the way that the world and the animals and the environment, and even now with the climate change and all of that, we're all sort of part of the problem in a way. So when I kind of look at myself in this way, and I can see this way that I feel, and I know that it's a very common thing for people to be thinking about, and you can sort of see when these sorts of things come into your mind, it is very difficult to get peaceful. It's very difficult to relax your body, relax your mind when you've got this shame happening. But actually it was one of the very first monks that came here that actually first sort of put me on to a lot of this, actually, that in sort of working with shame in this way, because he used to sort of talk about whatever you can see, whatever you can make an object of in your mind, you can know that it's not you. So if you can make if you can objectify whatever you can objectify, if you can objectify it, it's not you, it's not part of you. This is Ajahn Jagaro used to say this when he was the first abbot here many years ago. So we can do this with, and this is what Brené Brown is telling us with shame too. We can invert this shame and objectify it, make it an object, so that we can actually then work with it. We can work with this, the way that it impacts us, the way that it affects us. So it's a very important part of, I think, just in the way that when we are using this second factor of enlightenment, just this investigation, it's sort of a good example of just what you can do when you're looking in to see these trials and tribulations we have in the human condition, and when we are trying to understand and make our minds as peaceful as we can, so that we can see and experience what the Buddha was talking about. These sometimes they just seem like they're insurmountable objects, just maybe the depression and the anxiety sometimes that these things bring into our lives, the troubles with addictions and all of these sorts of things that are problems for us. It is possible to work with them, and the meditation is such a wonderful process to be able to do that, just to allow the whole mind, the mind itself, just to relax, and allowing the body to relax, grounding the body. We talk about that often here, grounding ourselves into this world, sort of knowing, because there's this paradox. It is a paradox because, whilst I'm saying we're making all these, objectifying all these things, making them all separate from us, but in reality, it's also true that all of this is part of us. It's part of us, and yet it's separate from us. Just in the same way that this world that I'm looking out onto, this is my world, and you are all in my universe. And when you look back at me, you're looking back at me here, and this is your universe. I'm in your universe, and all the other conditions that we can agree on. We know that this is the Buddhist Society's hall, and we know, various things that we're all in common agreement on. But essentially, we are all in charge of our own universe, in charge of our own minds, and we can work. The Buddha told us this work to make our minds peaceful, but we need to do it individually. We do it individually, but yet we are a collective. There's always that paradox that's there. Now, the only time, really, that paradox does get resolved is really right in the heart of the present moment. This paradox is resolved when we start to see the still consciousness that's there, the stillness of mind. And when that stillness of mind's there, everything unifies. There's a unification that takes place. So the paradoxes fall away. So what I'm going to do now is we'll sort of go on and do some meditation and try and incorporate some of that into this meditation. I'll just have a little sip of water. And we'll just see how we go. So if you would like now to just make yourselves nice and comfortable. Nice straight back, head pointing to the top of the ceiling. I always liked, as I always mentioned, I always like to have my right hand on the left and just your thumbs gently touching, and always good just to know about your fingers and that. There's a lot of nerve endings in your fingers. Your fingers can be quite tingly, and it's quite wonderful, and it's quite a good catalyst really to help with relaxation. But the very first thing to do always in meditation is basically just to make your body relaxed. So if you close your eyes now and close your mouth, you're breathing through your nose, and just let your tongue rest against the palate. And we can just take a few deep breaths, just letting ourselves relax into our position. And if you need to move, just move so that you're nice and comfortable. And I'm just going to do a quick sweep through the body, just starting at your toes. So I'd like you just to feel, you can pick any toe, middle toe, little toe or big toe, or even your second or third toe, it doesn't matter. Pick a toe. And just feel it against your socks or against the floor, so that you're feeling it, you're really feeling it. And then just allow that feeling to extend over the arch of your foot and into your heels. And then just let your attention and your feeling run up through the ankles, just feeling the ankles if you can feel the way that they articulate. Then up into the lower part of the leg, into that hard part of the shin in the front and the floppy calf muscles at the back. And if you can feel any of that as you're going through, that's good. Just notice that feeling of what that feels like. And then over the knees, and if there's any tensions or any pain at all around your knees, just try and move or relax and just let the tensions relax, just let them all resolve. Then moving up into the thighs. And then into the bottom where you're sitting, just noticing the pressure on your seat. And then up into the lower back, just making sure that curve there is nice and relaxed, but nice and straight. And your tummy. And when you're doing this, if you've got time to stay around there a bit, you can always just investigate into what's happening inside your body, you know, the gurgles and the little rumbles and the rushes that happen, the releases of little bits of liquid and the way that it all kind of flows. And if you put your attention there, you can see quite a lot. And then the same as we move up into the chest and the upper back, around the shoulder blades and into the front part of your chest where there's the heart and the rhythms that go with that. And then just feeling your arms as they hang down the side, they're just hanging quite determinedly, just hanging down on the side of your body and bent at the elbows, into the forearms and into the hands and the fingers. As I like to mention too, around the fingers, if you can feel some tingling there, that's always quite helpful. And if you're quite lucky, you might even find that tingling extending into the rest of your body. When the body tingles like this, it's always a really good sign that you're relaxing. The body's relaxing. And then moving up into the neck area and feeling your head on top of the neck with the top of the head pointing to the ceiling. You can just check inside your head, behind your eyes, and then up into the crown of your head. There's always plenty of energy going on there too. Plenty of feeling. And then you can just observe yourself as you're just sitting. Your whole body is just sitting. And just notice how we are sitting grounded into this universe, grounded into this world. we're being pulled with gravity into our seats. And those field lines we can know and perhaps intuit the way that they are going round and round, holding us onto the surface of the earth, connecting us right deeply into the earth, right into the centre of the earth. And it's always good just to reflect as well, just that we're part of this earth. We eat up the plants and the protein that the earth produces for us. We recycle it back into the earth. Our bodies are born out of this earth. And when we die, they go back into this earth. And at the same time, we're connected up into the stars, into the universe. Because indeed all of the elements of this body have come from the centre of stars, from supernova explosions. And this is an important realisation, just to see and notice how we are grounded into this earth and connected into this universe. And then I would like you just to, when you're ready, just to leave the body and just come inside so that we're starting to attend to the mind. And you will notice that already the mind is quite relaxed. Notice that your mind isn't thinking. Hopefully for you, it's even now, just after this much, it's quite still. You can hear the words that I'm speaking as they come and go in your mind. And there's no need for you to try and interpret the words or to make meaning of them. Just let them come and go. You just need to know that they're there, that's all. Just let them wash over. And just allow yourself to relax more and more. Allow the mind to relax more deeply. And then as you're relaxing, you're starting to notice in your mind just the way that it's quite content. The mind is quite able to be quite content. The first and the second hindrances are abating and moving away. So there's no desires and there's no aversion. The mind is just still, content, relaxed. And the mind is also quite balanced. It's not moving into any restlessness and you have any tired feelings under control. You're sitting there quite aware. You know that your mind is present. So that's the third and the fourth hindrance also. Moving out of the way. So there is just this beautiful contentment in this beautiful balance that just allows the mind to be quite joyful. Because this contentment is a source of joy, a source of happiness. It's relaxed. It's present. And we also know instinctively that this presence is a truth, it's close to truth, the middle way. We're not involved in any extremes of experience or feeling. We're balanced, content. And just notice what that feels like. Just notice how it's feeling. And you can also just start to notice behind that feeling there's this palpable sense of stillness, something that you can experience beyond any doubt. This beautiful, still presence. Where we know that we are looking directly at our still consciousness, consciousness that's still. There's nothing more than the still consciousness being created. It's just the stillness that we're aware of. And we can notice how we can cultivate this, because it is something that we can experience and know. So we can cultivate and amplify it. Becomes possible for us to know this stillness, because it is. We can notice that it is something that is always there. It's never ever not there. And we can know that this stillness is a source of wisdom. So now I'll just leave you quiet for a few moments just to allow us all individually just to cultivate the stillness, amplify it, just to keep your attention on it, enjoy it, experience it, luxuriate in it. Now if it helps, you can also now just turn your attention to your breath. And just watch and allow the breath to come and go in a natural way, and just be with the way that it arises and the way that it changes and then moves out, the way that begins and the way that it ends. And you can notice how the breath is doing this in the stillness of your mind. You can notice your breath arising from the stillness, and then it's returning to finish in the stillness. Only to recondition itself again and be reborn as a new breath. And the breath coming in, comes to the end of its in cycle, and then it conditions itself to go out. Again, to finish in the stillness. This is still consciousness. You can start to see how this breath is being created inside that stillness. To move in and reach its apex, and then to move out and again to finish in that stillness, that still consciousness. This breath is being created inside this still consciousness. And you can just watch the natural flow as it comes in and it flows out. And you can know without any doubt that this is the second and the third noble truth. Conditioning flowing in, and then a conditioned breath flowing out. To be reconditioned again to flow in, and then conditioning itself to flow out. You can see this creation happening in your mind. Your mind is being defined by the stillness. Notice how beautiful that process is. You're noticing the contentment and the subtle happiness that is there accompanying all of this. This, I don't think, could be ever talked about or be seen as extreme pleasure or happiness. It's very subtle. But as your mind becomes more focused, becomes more absorbed in the stillness, that subtlety is exquisite. It has a beauty. It's beyond compare. The mind is becoming very peaceful. And with that peace that's being developed, there is also very obviously a wisdom that can be there. So that we notice, as we're working with this anapanasati meditation, this mindfulness of the breath, we're noticing the two sides to it, the samatha side, the way that we are able to focus and concentrate our mind, and the way that we're able to be mindful of it, to be able to follow that concentration over a number of breaths, keeping the mind present. And at the same time, we're able to notice the wisdom side of this same element. The wisdom that this subtle joy and concentration brings. We can notice the wisdom of our mind, the wisdom that's there in the stillness of the mind, when the mind's not distracted, not moving around all of the time. It's no longer the monkey mind now. It's a mind that's focused, steady, and moving to the reality of the present moment. The truth and the beauty that's there in the present moment. And we can see how compelling it is. This is where we're looking directly into truth, looking directly into wisdom. The more focused and the more concentrated it is, the less distracted and the clearer the image. The clarity that is starting to come is quite profound. The penetration. We're penetrating right into the heart of the universe. So in a moment I'm going to ring the bell, and I'll do it 3 times as is usual, and I'd invite you just to keep your eyes closed and just to reflect on what's happened during this meditation. Reflect on what you've learned. But most importantly, to know that stillness that's there. And when you do open your eyes at the end of the third resonance, the third ringing of the bell, to bring that stillness back with you and make a resolution to cultivate it, to bring it into your everyday life. This is the very first factor in the 7 factors of enlightenment, mindfulness. To be aware of that stillness of mind. Because it can be there with the apparent. What is apparent in the universe is there, but the stillness is also there, can also be there. This is the point of transcendence. This is like the doorway that the Buddha was pointing to. The doorway to reality. Well, you've got some questions. Well, this is a first. Thank you. I hope I can read them. Thank you, Ashoka. Very good. We do usually try to finish the meditation here around about 8 o'clock because we do like here in the Dhammaloka Centre to have a bit of fellowship afterwards. Yeah, thank you. No, I think, how do I formally join the Sangha, please? This is a question from Julian Mayer. How do I formally join the Sangha, please? Well, yes, you'd be always very welcome. The Buddhist Society is an organisation that's set up to train monks and nuns, and we have monasteries. We have the Bodhinyana Monastery in Serpentine, and we have the Dharmasara Nuns Monastery in Gidgegannup. But we also now have a monastery in Kelmscott and also one down in the Great Southern. And there's monasteries too that we're associated with over Australia and indeed throughout the world, and especially in London. So the best way to formally join would be to approach the abbot, the spiritual director of the Buddhist Society, who is Ajahn Brahma Wongso. And I'm sure that if you rang and spoke to him, he would give you all the good oil on how to join the Sangha formally. So thank you for that question, Julian. And Ellen from Denmark, I have suffered from shame and self-hate because of a traumatic childhood. Therapies have helped, but I still feel it under any advice. I still feel it. I still feel it under any advice. Thank you. Yes, it's. I think if you, the main advice that I could sort of say for that is really, again, just recognising the way that this trauma comes up. But if you can, to try and make it more of an object in your mind so that you can actually look at it and not sort of have it directly inside you where it's all the time tripping you up, to try and use your meditation to make an object of what the trouble is. And then you'll find that there's ways that you can work with that to make it less prominent in your mind. And also the stillness indeed that we talked about tonight, you will find is a very, very powerful antidote to any of those traumas that come up. So when you're feeling these traumatic experiences and experiencing them again, or re-experiencing them again, as you no doubt are, you can then let the stillness move into and through those traumas, and the stillness will break them up. It breaks up the tensions, and they will disappear. But unfortunately, I don't know that the memory of this, the memory of it probably never goes. I mean, that's with you. This is part of you. It's part of what makes you as a person. But certainly the traumas and the feelings of trouble and anxiety or however it is making you feel, that can certainly be worked with and dealt with. And you can bring yourself to peace with all of that so that you are peaceful with these troublesome issues that come up in your mind. But it is a case of making an object of it, if you like, and then working with the trauma as an object to allow the whole thing to just settle and relax and make peace with it. You make peace with your trauma. So I hope that helps. And I've lost that. Ellen from Denmark. I hope that helps. All right, so we'll finish the night now with by paying respects to the Buddha, Dharma and the Sangha, and very much welcome everybody to come over and enjoy Ron's offerings. He usually brings along a little bit of a feed for us, so you're very welcome to come and join us over in the centre. So thank you very much for your kind listening and your attention tonight, and we'll see you next week. Next week there'll be a man called Drew Bellamy that's coming to give the talk. Drew is an ex-president of the Buddhist Society 2 or 3, 4 years ago. And I know that it'll be a very, very interesting talk. Drew's a very fine Buddhist and knows quite a lot about the Dharma. So I'm looking forward to that talk as well. So we'll see him here next week. So thank you, and we'll pay respects to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha. And I hope you all